big thing, what are you going to get from me that you can't get from the textbook? Here's the first big takeaway today, all right? You ready? Number one, let's summarise what we did today. Let's summarise. So run over to here, okay? All right, let's just do a summary here, because I think we've got plenty of time on Thursday to keep going. I think we're 2/3 of the way through our slides. So number one, in the past, you looked at the short run, okay? And in the short run, all we cared about was direct labour, direct materials, okay, and direct overhead, okay? And if we considered activity-based costing, then what did we look at? Then we also looked at variable selling and administration costs. All right, you know that because that was your green. That was your green, all right? So that's what you did in your first section of management accounting. Are you with me here, right? So what I introduced today is we need to start thinking about the long run. But in the long run, everything is variable, okay? Everything is relevant. So what can we do? Well, related to that is, and you go to a lot of factories and you look at their costs, or you look at the pro value example in chapter 13, you notice that maybe the cost of production was around 600, but their total cost was over 900. So in other words, you had fixed costs, you had other fixed costs that was nearly $300 that wasn't even accounted for in the short run. So what are we going to do about that extra $300? That's the big challenge. That's the big challenge, and the solution to dealing with 300 is to start thinking about target costing. Target costing. Can target costing work? Yes, sure it can. It can work wonders. But when you look at that textbook, the thing about target costing, they said, no. It must get very frustrating sometimes as a student when you go from chapter to chapter, and then every new chapter they say, here are 5 things you need to know, right? And you think, those 5 things, each of them is 20% weight. But you don't know, right? And then the chapter doesn't make it clear. You just try and at the end of the day as a student, look, I've got the exam, I've got to memorise these 5 things. And at the end of the day, you really don't understand what those 5 things are about. Because you don't know that, well, number 1 and number 5 are the critical parts. And the 2, 3, and 4 they're just the calculative parts. It's the 1 and 5 that makes the difference. All right, and so that's why I'm trying to help you digest chapter 13 better by saying, okay, chapter 13 says there are 5 different parts, but it's the 1 and the 5. Okay, so it's the 1 is the functional analysis, and the 5 is process value analysis and design analysis. Okay, so we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These were basically, these are just a bit of accounting, okay? But this is where a big decision needs to be made, okay? And this is where big decisions need to be made. All right, so what's the big decision here? The big decision here is what functions do I want in the product, right? Put a question mark here. All right. The big decision down here is, what can we change to reduce costs? What can we change? Like, if you don't change anything, how can you expect to reduce costs? All right, how is it that the major suppliers to Apple are still Chinese manufacturers, and Apple asks them to cut their price by 5% every quarter, but for the last 10 years, labour costs in China have gone up 15% every year? So how is it that suppliers still are able to continue to compete? They've got to innovate. They've got to find ways to reduce costs. How can you reduce costs? This is where you get paid big money as a consultant, if you can answer that question at the bottom. And that's where Chapter 13 is going. So that's why the juicy part of Chapter 13, probably the real killer, and what I love about it, is probably page 556. 555, 56, 57. Okay? And then we go to the last part where we look at page 560, 61. I'm just talking about, okay, is there stuff here that I could actually take to a factory and help them with? It will be on those pages. Okay, so what those first group of pages, we can reduce costs. How can we do that? We can do that with process value analysis. So on Thursday, I'm going to take you through what process value analysis is. Process value analysis. Okay? And with process value analysis, it's about activity analysis. It's about working out what's value added, and what is non-value added, and cutting out the non-value added. Remember the video I showed you last week where I walked into the factory and I said, look at all these administration staff, we should cut them. Remember that? Cut administration, cut inventory, and what was the third thing I said to cut costs? Process improvement. So the process improvement is what we're doing with process value analysis. How do we do that? We're going on Thursday. I'm going to show you how we can assess what is value added, what is not value added. And that's what we're going to do on Thursday. And then we're going to look at pro value, the example, and show you how its strategy, how it can change different parts of its manufacturing, either functional, design, or process, to actually cut costs so its total full cost is less than $900. Okay, that's what we're going. That's what we're shooting for on Thursday. Okay, so today I know I carried on a little bit about this whole cost thing, but I need to, because when you go out and read the media, no one talks about costs until it's too late. A company goes bankrupt, factory closes down. All right, so I'll show you some videos on Thursday and try and make Thursday interesting for you. So can I ask you a nice question? Can you come back on Thursday? Hands up if you're coming back. Who's coming back? Oh, that's so good. Thank you. All right. So don't forget overseas visitors, and welcome to Monash. There you are. Your LDCKY is your code for attendance today. So thank you so much. And don't forget, consultation, you're most welcome to visit my office. Love to see you and help you if you've got any questions. Okay, thank you. Or post any question into the Hangout. Love to answer and help you any way I can. Thank you.